Okay. All right. So at our last meeting, I talked about developing support pieces and resources for LGBT community and also for individuals just wanting to know more about Title IX. So I have had the opportunity to develop some written responses, and I believe I sent that out um, for everyone to be able to review as well. So what I've done is I've included this FAQ on the Title IX website. Like I said, the Title IX website, we've increased that uh, in regards to where individuals can find it. So it's on New Hanover County Schools webpage or any affiliate New Hanover County Schools webpage. Go to Title IX tab and go to the resources tab, and you will be able to find this FAQ. So this FAQ is based on North Carolina law. And so it's going to be a running FAQ. So as I get more questions about areas where individuals want more information or there's areas that we're seeing within the schools, I will be working to make sure we get more information um, updated on this FAQ to continue uh, resources. So that is the FAQ essentially. I'll allow you all to read on your time. I don't want to read it all to you all, but I just want to let you all know that there are written discussions based on the FAQ we talked about at the 915 Title IX committee meeting. In addition to those written responses, I have uh, I have also taken the time to develop some numbers, some other resources for the community as a whole, students and employees, borrowed from UNCW's resources information and updated a bit to fit our students. So this is also embedded in the FAQ. And so any individual that wants to have an ability to find out more information if they're dealing with some type of Title IX incident, they can see where they can find their school-based resources, who they can talk to or make a report to. And also I've included local resources such as police department, WET center, um, domestic violence shelter, and things such as that. There are also some national resources on here as well um, that students will be able to utilize in case they're dealing with any type of um, issue that they need more help with. So definitely want to be able to have an area where students feel more supported. And so I think this is a good example of that. And we're also being more transparent in what we're doing to support all of our students in New Hanover County schools. Yeah, so I think everyone should have a ability to unmute themselves if they want to talk. If not, someone let me know so I can um, allow that. I think Stephanie, I see your hand. Can
Yeah,
you?
I wanted to just, if you could, just go back over the bathroom and the locker room part of the FAQ. I've been getting a couple questions about that, and oh, I see myself twice. Sorry, my ADD self. So could you go back over that real quick?
Yes. So regarding the North Carolina law, so there was a recent update with Gavin B. Grimm, and and so what happened there is that the court stated that individuals, school systems cannot discriminate against individuals based on their gender identity status regarding bathroom and locker room usage. So what that looks like in everyday um, the schools would look like if a transgender student um, wants to use a bathroom that is associated with their gender identity by law, North Carolina schools, including New Hanover County schools, cannot tell them they cannot use a bathroom that they identify with. So what that means is whatever gender that they are identifying with, they are able to use that restroom, that locker room.
Okay, that's what I thought. Has New Hanover County Schools given any thought to having more like family style bathrooms, for students that might not feel comfortable still, for whatever reasons, using the bathroom associated with the gender that they identify with versus the gender that they were born into?
So we have not had discussions about increasing privacy. But at the same time, if there's an accommodation that needs to be made, we will allow individuals to use a single occupancy restroom if need be, if that's what they wish. So it's really on a case by case basis. So it's not a one size fits all. It really just depends on the facts that are presented.
Okay,
But we will accommodate students as best as possible. However, there is no inherent there is no inherent risk to a student's privacy or safety simply because of the presence of a transgender or non-binary student. Um,
right. No, that, I
right.
agree completely. But some people are, some parents and people that just don't quite understand are asking that question. So if a student has that issue, then or wants to have special accommodations for restroom use, should they go see the principal? Should they go see their counselor? Who should they go see to address their concern or their request?
Let me make sure I understand your question. You're referring to the student that's not seeking the accommodation, or the transgender student,
Yeah,
or
like a
other students?
a transgender student who
Okay.
wants to have a special accommodation to use the restroom, who would they go and see at
Yes.
their
So
school?
they can see generally anyone. So the way it happens, individuals generally they speak with their teacher, and then they'll bring that up to the principal. Ultimately, it's going to be the principal that is in control to make sure that I have that information as the principal. But I'm also in the process of training counselors at the school level. I have a meeting tomorrow actually with a social work group, a high school social work group, to train them on the gender support plan that I developed. Well, I'll talk about in a minute. So students, they have the ability to go to anyone, any trusted adult, and that person will be able to have that information funneled up to me as a Title IX coordinator. I'll be in all of these discussions at the local school level to really figure out what the accommodations are for each student in their particular case. But they can go to any trusted adult, and the principal of that site will need to make sure that aware so that we can get a plan going to make sure that they're supported and accommodated as best
Okay,
as
great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So I'd like to just suggest that we get out in front of this a little bit, because as the parent of transgender children, I've been dealing with this issue on the front lines for years. And I can tell you right now, as soon as this gets out in the general parent knowledge base, we're going to have pushback. And I think we will be in a much better position if we start out saying, okay, if your child is uncomfortable using a restroom with a transgender child, or if you are uncomfortable having your child use the restroom with a transgender child, and you will be given an accommodation, your child will be given an accommodation and be allowed to use the single occupancy restroom. Because I guarantee you it's going to happen. We're going to have somebody who's going to be extremely upset, and it's not a reasonable thing, but it's going to happen. And I think if we just if everybody is in the know in the beginning, knowing that this is going to come up, and we have a solution ready, that things can go a lot more smoothly.
Yes, so we do have a solution. It's going to be handled on a case by case basis. So that is the solution. I don't want to have a blanket answer. Like I said, I do not believe there is no evidence that the presence of a transgender non-binary student presents a safety or privacy risk. So we will respond on a case by case basis. I definitely take your thoughts into considerations. We can have a broader discussion about how we want to handle this from a system perspective. But I think that a blanket statement of we will accommodate any student that wants to have an accommodation because they're not comfortable in a bathroom environment with particular students. I don't think that we want to say that just yet. So it will be a case by case basis. But I definitely understand your point. I understand that individuals will be upset. Now remember, this is not New Hanover County's rule.
Right.
This is North Carolina law.
Right.
And we want to make sure we're being compliant with state law at the same time.
And you're 100% right. There is no risk to these students, but I know where I live.
I completely understand. Yes, ma'am. I do. But thank you for your comment there. So speaking of support resources, I have also developed a plan for students to make accommodation requests, and I am in the process of getting this turned into a fillable PDF. Can everyone see my screen there? There we go. So I'm in the process of getting this turned into a fillable PDF. But so generally what would happen if a student is requesting some type of uh, gender accommodation, we're going to put together a support team meeting with myself and other individuals at the school level, parents, students, whoever needs to be involved based on the type of accommodation requested. And this form is what it will look like. So I just wanted to show this briefly. And so we've already done this a few times this year, actually, and it's gone over smoothly so far. So I will have this page available on the Title IX resources page once we get it finalized and fillable, and individuals can utilize this to, make their request in writing if they want to, or if they've made a verbal request and it's been funneled up through the principal to myself. In the meeting, I will be utilizing this document to go through questions to figure out what accommodations would be necessary at the school-based level to support the student.
So Jarrell, who will have access to this document?
This document is going to be a case-by-case basis. So working with the parent and the student, it will depend on what the accommodation is. Generally, this document will be a little bit it definitely will be on a need-to-know basis. I'll have one in central office as a Title IX coordinator, since it is a Title IX issue. Most likely it will be the principal, but it really depends. We'll also have a copy, but it really depends on the accommodation that's requested. But I will definitely have one in central office as a Title IX coordinator. Most likely the principal will have it as the person in charge of their school, and a counselor, a social worker, depending on the level of the accommodation, mostly for check-ins and things like that.
Okay, I appreciate that you doing this.
Jarrell, this is Deborah. I just have a question about a parent. If, for example, a student requests these accommodations but indicates that their parent is not aware, and under FERPA, a parent has access to their students' records. How are you handling that?
It's going to be on a case-by-case basis. So the FAQ also talks about that as well. Sometimes students, school is the only environment where students feel comfortable to be themselves, even if the parent might not agree. So of course we do have FERPA rights, and parents have, rights as well to raise their children how they see fit. So depending on the age and the type of accommodation requested will depend on the level of parental involvement. For example, elementary student, we're going to greatly have to defer to what the parent is requesting. But for example, if it's a situation where a high school student wants to have an accommodation regarding their name in class, something such as that wouldn't necessarily need or precipitate any type of parental involvement from that end. So it's really on a case-by-case basis. The legal answer, lawyer answer, as you would know, it depends. But we are definitely balancing the parents' rights versus the student's request, while also being mindful of the law regarding FERPA and things such as that. So the best answer is a case-by-case scenario.
So Jarrell, I was trying to follow along, as Kimberly was, scrolling down through that document.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I saw, as it was scrolling by was, does the teacher know? Which teachers need to know? So like at the elementary school level, that's pretty easy because they don't really rotate through that many teachers.
Mm-hmm.
But at the middle school and high school level, when they're changing classes, more teachers would know.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we control that? For especially if they want it to be private, And then as a secondary thing to that, is it like an IEP that like in a teacher's folder, when a substitute teacher arrives in a classroom and there is a folder that talks about, emergency situations and allergy situations, is this going to be there for, a substitute teacher, to have access to?
So in that support plan meeting, these are the type of questions that are also discussed. How broad do we want to share this information, depending on the type of accommodation? I hate to say it depends, but it really truly does. So we have an open and broad discussion with the parent, the student, if possible, if the parent wants the student there. So it really does depend. For example, I had one the other week, and we discussed parents, substitute being involved, but based on that accommodation that was being requested, we did not feel that substitute teachers needed to be involved to the level of receiving any type of written document. So it really just depends on the accommodation requested. Generally, substitute teachers, they would not know, and sometimes even the general teacher would not need to know, particularly have a written document support plan. But if the parent feels comfortable, the student feels comfortable after having that discussion in that gender support plan, with having it share with those individuals, then we will. It really just depends on the type of accommodation requested and the comfort level of all the parties involved. So it's not New Hanover County Schools making a decision. It's completely the decision of the parent and the student based on their comfort level.
Okay, well, I would like to have, for us to put it like in a side note, or for you to think about in substitute teacher training, because not all people in the public in the substitute pool are as enlightened as we are, about these kinds of issues. And we may have someone say something that is offensive to that student just because they don't know, or maybe because they just don't even agree, that that's happening. So if we could just put that like on a parking lot somewhere, just to be thinking about, because substitute teachers are across the board, many age, differences. And there may be some people in some generations that, don't quite understand, all of the nuances that are now available, not available, but are coming to surface, in people's lives.
Yeah, I completely wholeheartedly agree. And training, I think, is going to be needed across the board. So that's what I've been working on. Like I said, I do have training tomorrow regarding this topic, and I've already scheduled, I think, 3 or 4 with social workers and counselors. It's really going to be them as an extension of me, uh, providing the support for the students. I would like for the counselor, social worker, to be the one-stop shop for the students, to provide support and accommodations, because that's their role. Like I said before, counselors and social workers, we're not going to be utilizing them as investigators. So this is an example where we're trying to utilize them in the role that's befitting to what they've been trained to do. So yes, I completely wholeheartedly agree. We do need to increase training awareness across the board as a whole. And we've begun that. For example, I had a conversation with Stephanie Markley just last week to get some information for volunteers as well. So yes, all across the board, there's additional training needed in many areas.
So Kim Cox is the substitute coordinator.
Kim Cox, okay. I'm jotting that name down. I'm sorry if you can hear the squeak at a table. I'm at this table, and every time I write anything, it is squeaking and driving me crazy. But thank you for your input and your thoughts. Yes. Was that all you wanted to share, Stephanie? Okay. Thank you. So moving forward, we've also this week, and talking about increasing information and transparency regarding Title IX, I met with communications office to talk about Title IX branding. Um, I have felt like when it comes to Title IX, it's been me as the Title IX coordinator that's the face of it. But what I'm trying to do is remove myself as a face for Title IX for New Hanover County Schools, and really brand it as the school system's office for Title IX, where they can have all information, resources regarding Title IX needs. So moving forward with November meeting, we'll have a member from the communications office be present at Title IX committee meetings to really capture what we're discussing. I know we're also doing minutes, but they'll really be able to capture what we're doing and produce a document, a video, or anything to be able to communicate with the public to get the information out in a broader to a broader audience. For example, we're planning on doing a Title IX podcast in the very near future. So yes, the discussions of getting individuals trained and providing more transparency information about Title IX, what it is, and what we're doing. Definitely, we're trying to implement some things to get that done. So I just wanted to, yes, go ahead, Stephanie.
And I'm sorry to keep butting in. I'm just trying to look at it from the parent point of view and the outsider, not the insider, who we're real familiar with this. So when you say that we're rebranding for the Office of Title IX, who is in that office? If we're because we've been real specific about running things through you. So that's going to be a little bit of a paradigm shift when we say it's not Jarrell anymore, it's the office. So who is in the office?
So currently, it is a very small office. It is myself and my admin, Kim Joy, with the help of other individuals in central office. And so an example of this would be I developed a generic Title IX email. As opposed to last year, Title IX matters were sent to my personal email, but my name has a unique spelling. So for example, I took, so the Title IX email is title9@nhcs.net. That's an example of us branding it as New Hanover County Schools and not Gerald Lewis Title IX coordinator. So that's an example of what I mean. Go ahead.
Okay, so that would be posted?
Yeah, so that's posted already on the Title IX website.
Okay.
In addition to who is in this Title IX office, brings me to my next point, Title IX investigator position. So as you all know, we were provided funding through the county commissioners to hire investigators. One is already on board with working with employee relations. We also did post an investigator position for a Title IX investigator. I reviewed the information that came back from that posting, and since employee relations has hired a investigator, I wanted to repost a position that matches the employee relations position. So we reposted that about a week or two ago. So there is a current Title IX investigator position on New Hampshire County Schools job board that closes tomorrow at 11:59 p.m. So once that closes, I will take that information and hopefully have the Title IX investigative position selected no later than the first, having that person be on board ASAP, and we'll have them trained through a third party and ready to go very, very swiftly as we're trying to continue to grow the office Title IX from one to a team of individuals.
Okay, and who do you report to, Jarrell, in the big organizational chart of New Hanover County Schools?
I report directly to the superintendent as
Okay.
the Title IX regulations suggest.
Okay, thank you.
So the last point that I have regarding Title IX updates is, of course, we have been doing Zoom meetings for an extended period of time due to coronavirus. And these meetings in person were held at the New Hanover County Schools Board of Education Center. There are multiple committees that meet here on different days. On Mondays, the first Monday and third Monday, there is a equity committee that meets immediately after the Title IX committee meets. But because of coronavirus, we have put in some extra precautions regarding setup and cleaning. So we will Title IX committee will need to alter their meeting schedule in order to ensure that the equity committee is able to get into the board education center to run their meeting that starts at 5. So I believe we sent an email out last week asking individuals to consider some dates and times that would work for them to move their Title IX committee meetings to. Looking at the calendar, I believe that Wednesdays, if we want to keep the same time, 3:30 to 5:30, will be the best date for that. But if that does not work for individuals, we can consider a different time on a different day. But currently, as it sits, the Title IX committee meets 3:30 to 5, and then the equity committee meets from 5 to 6:30, which is not going to work due to coronavirus cleaning concerns as we're having more people be available in person for meetings. So that's something I want to share with you all. I don't know if does anyone have any thoughts so far. I did see that email about dates and times that they would prefer. And if not, I can definitely send out a poll, a more formal poll, as we consider the time that we would like to meet as a committee moving forward. But unfortunately, it's not going to work as currently because of um, coronavirus. So I will take everyone's silence as a opportunity to table this discussion, and we'll send out a poll and get it done a little bit more formally than that. So moving forward, I want to
Umbrella.
definitely,
No,
yes,
sorry, there was a comment from Mr. McCarty that says that Wednesdays are not good for principals usually because
Wednesdays
of
are for principals. Okay. Okay, so I had that noted.
Yep, so it looked like all three principals chimed in and said Wednesdays are not good.
Okay, thank you.
Would the committee be one suggestion was also to move the meetings a little bit earlier to 3 o'clock. So I don't know if that would be any better for everyone. I mean, I don't know if and that would give us 3 to 4:30. So I don't know if that would be any more palatable for.
So if we want to keep the same day, we'll have to move a bit earlier. Wednesdays, it might not be good for principals, so we might have to have another day a bit earlier. I'm pretty sure no one would want to do it later on another day, but we'll see. So earlier is looking like uh, maybe the best option, but we can have a poll sent out regarding some dates and times and see if it works. I'm pretty sure that it's going to be hard to accommodate every single person. I appreciate everyone's time so far and their interest in the committee. But I definitely understand if we're not able to get everyone involved in every single meeting. I definitely could foresee that happening. So for time's sake, I'll table this and send out a poll that talks about times that we can meet in the future, times and dates that we can meet in the future. I want to be able to have time to talk about the look back that we tabled from the last Title IX committee meeting. So Nelson, you can go ahead and drive and share your screen for your discussion.
All right, thank you, Trill. I'll be as brief as possible. Sensitive to the time, but I wanted to take a look as a committee of where we started, what our objectives were, what's been accomplished, and maybe how to reset, where to move forward from here. So let me see. Hopefully you can. It says you've disabled participant screen sharing.
Okay, Nelson, see if it works now.
It does. All right. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Sweet. So I'm going to send this to everybody so you guys have it. I started out by just creating a broad timeline of our first steps, what we were trying to achieve, all the headwinds that we had to face in trying to achieve it as quickly as we ended up doing. But I'll go into a little bit more detail, again, trying to be sensitive to 4:30. So this committee was really started in December and January of 2018 and 2019, respectively. And I know some of you will remember the board was presented with 6 cases, and we were asked to look at these cases and to discover whether or not there was some sort of systemic issue. So the board met in closed session in January, and after some back and forth, and as a result of that discussion, I believe Ms. Estep wanted to take a look at our policies toward Title IX in general, and whether or not we were doing everything that we needed to be doing to meet the needs of our students and staff. It was kind of a surprise when we really started to look at it. We put together this team with our key administration officials, our chair. We decided who needed to be there. But looking more broadly across the state or even our region, you couldn't find anything similar. And that's something I think everybody in this committee should take some pride in. There's not many Title IX committees that I know of. It's rare in K-12. I think Jarrell can attest to have a director. So yeah, we were trying to solve a problem, but we were also learning about it as we went. And I think for myself, and I'm sure for a lot of us, that was kind of the unique part of this challenge, was trying to figure out exactly what we needed to know. So our first meeting was on March the 7th in 2019. You can see a list there. Bernice Johnson was there. Leslie, you were there. Dr. McGee and Amber Restar were our policy experts. And that first meeting was really just trying to figure out what problem we were trying to solve, what were we trying to achieve. So we began with introductions and a discussion of how the district was handling Title IX and a broader conversation about what Title IX was. I think at that point, and I said that conversation for us was really a starting point and a map, but it seemed clear when we were talking to each other that there were some things we could be doing better and some things that we weren't really doing at all. The initial discussion was sort of centered around Title IX as it pertained to sports. And we talked about, who was getting training. In fact, our athletic directors were running Title IX investigations. So we realized pretty quickly that we had to make some big changes in order to meet the needs of our students. So there was also a bunch of discussion about what we could legally do, because maybe you guys will remember we had the discussion with the Sheriff's Department. They want us to, respect their investigation. At the same time, we needed them to respect the fact that regardless of any investigation they undertake, we have responsibilities under the law as a school system. So at our second meeting in April, the sheriff explained his usual practices regarding their investigations. And at that point, we brought some more people in. Amy Feith from the Carousel Center and Jane Emma joined the committee and headed up work on the resources and education subcommittees. And we decided those are areas we really needed to focus on. We needed to figure out, what we were going to do with those subcommittees and how we were going to reach all of our students. So we had policy with Amber and Robbie trying to figure out how we can fix our policy. Education looked at who needed to be at the table and how we were reaching our students, faculties, and parents. And resources looked at some of the things that would be helpful, like website links to community resources, parent and student feedback forms, and talked about how to create a safe and productive space for our students and families. And all that really informed the work that we would do over the summer, into the fall, and into the next year. So I sort of wanted to take a look at what that was and some of the things we accomplished, because they are impressive. We updated our website, made sure that everyone had easy access to the director's Title IX policy, the director's name and the number of the director. And this is a legal requirement. We had to do that. We hired a new Title IX coordinator, of course, our new committee chairman. And again, that is a rarity in K-12 education. Director Lewis implemented new procedures to make sure that the district was in compliance. And it became clear, like we said, the K-12 is really a state and national problem. I think, moving forward, New Hanover County is going to serve sort of as a model for the state and really maybe even the country. I think that's something, again, that we should be proud of. We've been out front with this work. At one of our meetings, Amy Feith said we needed to look at a survey to answer questions of where are we, that we had the committee and we really needed to figure out why we had it. Where are we right now? So we spent months trying to determine appropriate questions and how we could deliver the survey. The pandemic did halt a lot of that work, but we are now prepared to move forward with that survey as our students get back to school. In September of last year, Ms. DeVos, Secretary DeVos, announced changes coming to Title IX regulations for the Department of Education. Those changes required us to pause our policy development as we waited for further guidance. And after being issued in late July, the district did update its Title IX policy and passed them at the August board meeting. Dr. Burns, Stephanie, as you were just talking about, where is everybody? Dr. Burns reorganized human resources, and the district hired that full-time investigator. So we will have 2 positions created thanks to that reorganization. We will soon have annual training for our employees on Title IX. The topic of Title IX has been added to growth and changes. So all of our students are now getting information on their rights and their responsibilities. And I said after nearly 2 years, we are in a wildly different place than we were when we started. We have accomplished a lot, and I think there's a lot to be proud of. But I think the initial reasons for the formation of this committee have largely been satisfied. We're in that different place because of our work, because of the work of the district. And I wanted to take this time to really sort of give some homework for the next meeting and sort of figure out where do we go from here. So I'd like us to consider a few things for our next first steps. And that is, what have we missed or failed to accomplish? Where are we lacking? Is this the best place to be? Yeah, it's different. Is this the best place to be? Is this as good as we can be doing when it comes to addressing areas concerning Title IX? Should we be doing even more? And what does that look like? What needs to be done to maintain the new normal with regards to Title IX, and what role does the committee need to play in aiding that work? And finally, what groups are we missing? Who else really needs to be here? Do we need a student here? A middle school representative, a high school representative? I think these are things that we sort of have to look at moving forward. Because I don't think our work is done. I just think it's definitely changed from the beginning. And that was something I wanted to talk to y'all about. So I'll throw it up to anybody.
Thank you, Nelson. So due to time, we were going to have breakout sessions to really have individuals speak about this in a smaller format. But due to time, we're not going to be able to have the breakouts. So what we'll do is, if that's okay with Nelson and Lisa, is that I'll make sure that this presentation is sent back out. You should already have access to it to review and reflect before the next meeting. And then at the next meeting in November, we can do the breakout sessions and discuss those 4 questions and any other additional questions that come up based on the look back that Nelson shared. But if anyone wants to have some quick comments in real time right now about that, we definitely can, but I don't think we have time for a major discussion and breakouts. But if anyone has a quick couple thoughts about the work of the committee so far, then you could definitely share. I see a couple hand raised. Jackie, you can go ahead.
Yeah, I think that was a great summary and a recap, especially since I joined the committee a little later. I would just like to remind ourselves that because New Hanover County is ahead of the curve regarding K through 12, to get doing the survey and figuring out some way to do some evaluation of the programs in place early on so that success can be documented, both for bragging rights down the road, but also to help be a model for other school districts.
Thank you. I saw a couple other hands because I don't know everyone, so you can just go ahead and unmute yourself and go ahead.
This is Stephanie Craybill. Questions I had that I asked early on when I joined the team in place of Bernice Johnson from the PTA Council is I think a lot of people associate Title IX with sports and educational discrepancies for women. And so when I asked that question, when I first joined, I was told that we're not going to handle that part of Title IX. We're only going towards the bullying and the sexual harassment part of Title IX. So I would like to see us put that in there somewhere, that we really do need to address the whole title and not just one portion of it. Or at least if we're not going to address the sports and right to equal access kind of stuff, then we need to be real specific that we're not doing it.
I think that so thank you for your comment, Stephanie. I think that the committee definitely, I don't want to silo parts of Title IX that are more important than others. Sexual harassment, sexual assault, those are very important pieces. Of course, the Department of Education, OCR said so. We also want to have an environment where students are safe. but I also don't want to discount those other areas such as athletics, such as parenting and pregnant students. Those are all areas that fall under Title IX, and so we are. I would like to have a Title IX committee that discusses all those topics to try to make all those topics areas better for our students because it ultimately does fall under Title IX. And we just want to have an area, school system that welcomes all students and makes them feel more comfortable so they can be better students at the same time. I think I saw a few more hands. You can go ahead and unmute yourself if you had any other additional comments.
I was basically going to say what Jackie did, but I want to expand on that a little bit because not only do we need to do those questions with our students and in our schools, but also with our parents, because we all have gotten a little wonky in this committee and we all know all the details on this. And I think it would be very easy for us to assume that now everybody in New Hanover County is a Title IX expert. And obviously we haven't gotten there. So I want to be very cognizant that we're getting our information to everybody inside the school building and out of what these issues are and how, as they come up in their family, how to proceed. And so I think we just need to gather information constantly as we're going forward to see where we need to improve.
I agree. I spend a lot of time researching Title IX issues and matters and updates because it's constantly changing. So I completely agree. And I think with the addition of an individual from the communications office, that will help dramatically regards to information sharing, transparency as we continue to build and be a leader in Title IX. Speaking about being a leader, so I had Kim, my administrative assistant, send out and try to collect all the information for the Title IX coordinators statewide. And my thought was to develop a like a professional learning community for statewide Title IX coordinators. So that's an area I think where we're an example of New Hanover County being on the forefront. So just I think next week, Wednesday, have a meeting with another Title IX coordinator in a neighboring school system to be able to be colleagues and share information and resources so everyone's not feeling like they're doing this by themselves, me particularly. Um, so I think that's an example of us being on the forefront. Um, so yeah.
And
So thank-
Jarrell, this is Stephanie Craybill again. When
Mhm.
we're ready, to go a little bit outside of our borders, the Bernice Johnson is on the board of NCPTA, and they are very interested in the work that we're doing in New Hanover County Schools regarding that. So the NCPTA would be interested in helping co-host a forum of some sort about how to engage parents in or helping do some training, and trickling that down, the New Hanover County Council of PTAs would also be very interested in co-hosting a forum with you for parents to address Leslie's point as far as that goes as well, because it's a lot of information, and I think our committee was put together in many people's eyes as a reactionary to, the incidents that were occurring in our school system. But now that we're kind of out in front a little bit, it would be nice for us to stay out in front and be the proactive and not always in the reactive mode.
I agree. And speaking about this, I was going to add it to this agenda, but there's not enough time. The Department of Education Office for Civil Rights, they have this CRDC Civil Rights Data Collection. And I think just last week they released their civil rights data collection, and it also talked about Title IX incidents and the rise of it happening in K through 12 schools between 2015 and 2018. So I think that definitely hits on the point of there's been a great focus in higher ed, and even they realized that there was a need from a K-12 perspective on Title IX. So I think that there's definitely room for growth there. And so I would definitely welcome opportunity to speak with other colleagues in this area to share my information and resources and be able to help each other across the state with New Hanover County Schools being the leader as we implement some things first to do that. So for time purposes, I will move on to the last part of the agenda, and that's just some quick follow-up pieces about curriculum that we talked about from the last meeting. So give me 1 second here. So this is a chart, a graph, I guess. I wasn't the best math student. So this is a chart that talks about safer, smarter kids, as we discussed. We wanted to have the programming begin for safer, smarter kids, and we wanted to have discussion whether it was going to be opt out or opt in. So I sent a survey to the committee, and based on the responses, the agreement was that individuals wanted to have student participation for safer, smarter kids be opt out. So we are moving forward with having that be an opt out provision. My understanding from the board perspective is that that will not be a difficult process in implementing. So I foresee the Safer Smarter Kids rollout being pretty swift now that we've gotten feedback for the participation of students, either opt in or opt out. So we will work with getting more information out to the public regarding that, but there are some issues related to third policies and copyright information. So we're going to be working through those to share the resources best as possible with parents. And I know Stephanie, at our last meeting, you had a couple questions regarding parent involvement in PTA, how we can get them information to be a part of the conversation so they can make the best decision if they want their students to participate or not. So for Safer Smarter Kids, we're having discussions with the third party to figure out how we can do that and not violate any copyright laws there. So we'll keep you posted in that area. But also Family Life Education and Stepping Stones, we upgraded the curriculum because it had been quite a while since the curriculum has been updated. So that curriculum update, we are having to have that rolled out in January 2021. But in order to have the rollout under the some federal law regarding sex ed classes, anytime you're going to update your curriculum, you have to have a 60-day notice rollout period. So Family Life Education has done that under Jane Emma, who's unable to be with us today, but I just want to speak about this part for her really quickly. So Family Life Education has updated their website to comply with Healthy Schools Act to talk about and showcase what the updated curriculum is going to be, particularly when it comes to gender inclusivity and LGBTQ students. So that is on the Family Life Education website, those updates to their curriculum that parents and community members can review. And that 60-day window has begun with the hope for January 2021 upgraded curriculum for Stepping Stones programming to include discussion, not discussion, but LGBTQ students for inclusivity perspective. So that's all that I have on the agenda. I think we're at 4:28. Our next scheduled Title IX committee meeting, I guess we'll have more discussion once we get the poll out regarding this date for the November meeting. So I'll have Kim send an email to the committee as a whole once we have more information on that. Okay. Besides that, that's all I have. If Nelson or Lisa want to have any other comments or questions, you definitely take this last couple minutes to do so.
The only thing I would like to add is I would like to give a shout out to our community-based organizations that have been with us almost from the start, or really from the start. Amy Feith, I think he's on here, and Janie Data and Jenna Young. Y'all have been rock stars in all of this, and we could not have done this without you. You know, to be able to do the partnerships and develop the partnerships that we have, we just wouldn't be where we are today. So I really appreciate the support and the kind of the, like I said, the partnerships that we've developed. It really has meant a lot to our system, and we really appreciate you.
Thank you for saying so. I just want to let everybody know too, we've entered into a partnership with Cape Fear Community College that will allow for law enforcement to obtain the radar protocol for forensic interviewing, and it's called First Call, which is really what anybody that is going to be on the front lines receiving that first piece of information, but not doing the comprehensive forensic interview would need to have. So we are doing a collaboration with Cape Fear Community College, of course, because it's going through their law enforcement training program. Anybody that is law enforcement, including our SROs, are able to take that training at no cost as it's being offered. And then Carousel Center is going to scholarship anybody that is not a law enforcement officer, but a community partner, such as Mr. Lewis or Tanya Jordan, anybody that might be from the schools that you can think of that would be beneficial for them to have that first call protocol that will allow for them basically to know how not to ask questions that then might impede an ability for a case to go forward. So that's the newest exciting news I have to report since I spoke with all of you last, is that we've entered into that, and it will be an ongoing process. So we will be offering those every we'll be doing Radar, First Call, and Radar Junior on a rotation with Cape Fear Community College.
Thank you for that information. I would love to be a part of that, and I think that would go well with the Title IX investigator and the employee relations investigator that we both have, that we have in the Hanover County Schools, to be able to get the best training around. So I will follow up with you to get that ball rolling.
Sounds good.
All right. Well, that's all I have. 4:31. So thank you, everyone. I'll be sending out an email next week with updates for the next meeting. All right. Thank you. See you all. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye.